future is near. More access, more everyone, more everything.
September 25th,
This is our moment,
2019.
our story
Show
to
number
tell. This
31.
is history begun. This is the XFL.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, The Mark, and on this week's show, Antonio Brown news, cut by the Patriots, Raiders, what about the XFL? Josh Johnson and Cardale Jones were cut. We'll get into that and so much more. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your thoughts or MP3s, or you can call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Just remember, cutoff time is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it on the show as well. We do have a couple reviews. We'll read them in a second. Remember, if you write us a review, you'll be entered to win an XFL sweatshirt. That's right. Write us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We'll pick a winner for an XFL sweatshirt. Winner will be announced on the show after the XFL Draft. So the winner will be announced after that show, after the XFL Draft. Now, speaking of reviews, before we get into the two nice reviews, one of the XFL Army fans messaged me and said, that guy who sent you that not so nice review said something about you being from Texas or in Texas, and you're not. And I was like, that's a great point. I didn't even realize that. I'm actually in Maryland. And he said that there's another podcast out there where that guy is from Texas. So maybe this person who left me a review didn't realize that he left a review for the wrong show, because my show is from Maryland, near Washington, D.C., home of America's team, DC Defenders. I'm not a Texas guy. I'm not in Houston or Dallas Renegades or a Houston Roughneck guy. We're DC Defenders, America's team, the real America's team. So that guy has totally got it wrong. I think he left a review for somebody else's podcast. So we got two in. Kivo T24 gave us 5 stars. My favorite part of every week. Thank you very much for that. And Sasime gave us 4 stars as well. I enjoy the podcast. So excited for the XFL. Thanks for keeping us informed of what's going on and leading up to the draft and start of the season. I'm excited too. I'm in St. Louis and cannot wait to head to the Dome for some football. Sasime, I have been in the Dome as well for football when St. Louis Rams played the Baltimore Ravens a long time ago, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time in St. Louis. It's a great town. I was so excited. We did the Anheuser-Busch tour, and my friends are like, oh, yeah, we're going to drink whatever. And I'm like, great, I'm gluten-free. Not by choice, like basically have to for medical deal. And we got to the end of the tour, and I just happened to throw out there, I was like, you guys have any gluten-free beer? And they were like, yes. Well, yes, we do. And it was like, yes. It's not very good gluten-free beer, and I prefer a cider nowadays. But back then, it was like, this is amazing. They have a gluten-free beer here, and I could drink beer with my friends like a normal person. And it's been years since I've been able to do that. So, great time in St. Louis. Super excited for St. Louis Battlehawk fans, and super excited for the draft myself. I've been thinking about, I'm sure you guys think that I'm somehow this multi-millionaire who, just does XFL all day long and nothing else. Actually, I have a full-time job, and I have a consulting business, CM3 Solutions. So I'm a very busy guy, 6 kids too, and a wife, very busy. But I'm thinking of taking that day off just for the XFL Draft. If it's during the week, if it's like a Thursday at noon or something, we'll see when this is all going to transpire. But I'm looking to do something fun on YouTube, do some kind of live thing before the XFL Draft, and then basically take the day off and just watch the XFL Draft. It's been a long time coming, my friends. We started this site basically a couple days after Vince McMahon made the XFL announcement. So that's it for the reviews. Remember to write us a review, and you'll be entered to win that XFL sweatshirt. They are nice. I know exactly the one that I want to get. Question of the week. We decided to mix it up. We were going to do about if there was one XFL city you would cut from the 8, but we switched it up because there's this big news about should the XFL sign Antonio Brown. That's the question of the week. We threw it out there. Should the XFL sign Antonio Brown? We have lots of reaction. With that, we knew we would. That's why we put it out there. Also, remember to check me out on Dallas Radio, 1160 AM KBDT Sports Day with John Clemens. That's on Saturdays and Sundays. Check that out, too. Peer in on a couple other shows. We'll announce those after those are completed. Plus, we're working on an interview for next week. Excited. We'll be recording that soon. And then we'll have that for y'all next week. And more, working out some big names, folks, to come on the show. So we're super excited. Leading up to ticket announcements has got to be coming soon. And then the draft coming soon. We got tier 1 players, so much to get to. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. If you've been living under a rock, maybe you haven't heard, but Antonio Brown got cut by the New England Patriots. This has been following, if you've been following the NFL, you've noticed this bizarre saga with Antonio Brown over the last several months. It started with him being traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to Oakland Raiders, had a lot of drama with Ben Roethlisberger, and then didn't show up for a playoff game, or sat out, but didn't need to. Then he gets traded to the Raiders. Then after several problems there with his feet, his helmet, getting into it with Mike Mayock because he got fined, they basically let him go. So within a couple days, he lands in with the New England Patriots. And of course, all fantasy football nerds who had Antonio Brown are like, yes. All of us who don't like the New England Patriots are like, no. And the rest were like, oh, we're just going to be in trouble because now Antonio Brown is with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, they're going to win again. But that didn't last very long, only one game, because amid some sexual harassment and rape allegations, the franchise, who also had somebody with a little bit of issues, Robert Kraft, cut the player. And now he is done. So with no team and no franchise interested in signing a player with multiple off-the-field issues, could Brown's saving grace be the XFL? Now, let's take a minute to look. The XFL Draft is set to take place in mid-October, so the likelihood that he would receive a commissioner's invite doesn't seem likely at all with all his legal dramas going on and tons of heat with him. I don't think the XFL is really that interested. I'm not sure if they're interested. We'll get into that in a minute. And basically, since the XFL announced the league's return, it's always been trying to kind of distance itself from its controversial past. Now with the XFL, you got Oliver Luck. You got a good set. They basically want good players. They have great coaches, a good office staff, a strong TV deal, and the league's approach has been basically one of patience. In my opinion, we don't need marquee players. Marquee players will develop in the XFL, and the sport of football will carry the league, not having a named guy. We don't need a named guy. Vince and Oliver Luck are basically banking on fan interest in a spring football league over anything else. If they wanted a name and wanted controversy, you would have already heard of Johnny Manziel, and you would already have heard Colin Kaepernick. They would have given him the money if they felt that they needed to, but they're in it for the long haul. Now, Brown could join the league before the kickoff of 2020, but what team would get him? So they could wait, let things kind of chill out a little bit. Maybe some things go down and nothing more drama, and then they bring him in January. But again, what team is he going to play for? How would that even work? The league is not desperate for a big-name star. We've talked about Manziel and Kaepernick before. Brian Mallett, who received a commissioner's invite earlier this month, was recently arrested for DWI, and we no longer know what his status is with the XFL. He could be out too. So if Ryan Mallett's out, they have no interest in Antonio Brown. So we don't know where the XFL is basically going to stand when it comes to these kind of things. So for the best thing for Antonio Brown to do, as your friend, Antonio, well, we're not friends at all, but from a guy on the outskirts, you need to lay low, get your life together. Clearly, the circle that you're surrounding yourself with is not going to last. Your paychecks are not going to last, and you're going to run out of money if you haven't already soon because you haven't been paying people. I just think this guy is just a train wreck. We all hope that he gets back to normal, but we don't know that. But if no NFL team comes calling, and it's a year from now, and then it's the 2020 season, and still not an interest of Antonio Brown, his only shot might be the XFL. See, the XFL does not need Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown needs the XFL. But wait, there's more. After all this story broke about Antonio Brown, Pro Football Talk reached out to the XFL and asked for comment. And Pro Football Talk basically asked, would the XFL be a landing spot for the troubled wide receiver? The XFL told Pro Football Talk, basically, the league is not interested in Brown. And they made that clear over the weekend. So fans, do not expect there will be no Antonio Brown in the XFL in the initial 2020 season. Remember about a month ago, we reported around August 11th that quarterback Josh Johnson, a player on the XFL's Tier 1 radar, signed with the Detroit Lions, and we thought that this ended his shot with the XFL. Remember, like, he turned down the Ravens and then signed with Detroit, and we were like, dude, you just been a practice player, like, make a name for yourself in the XFL. Why do you keep jumping from team to team? But he signed with the Detroit, and we thought that that was done. Also, on September 11th, we reported that Cardale Jones, another guy that was in the XFL's Tier 1 radar, he signed with the Seattle Seahawks. So we thought also, well, that ends his shot. So you got Josh Johnson will play for Detroit. Cardale Jones was on the practice squad playing for the Seattle Seahawks, which also made us confused because of their whole backup situation with Paxton Lynch. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Well, last week, both players were cut from their respective teams. The Detroit Lions cut Jones and signed quarterback Jeff Driscoll to add depth behind starting quarterback Matthew Stafford. I thought Josh Jones was the depth, but Jeff Driscoll came, the Lions, and they wanted him. The Lions also have rookie quarterback David Blough on their roster. Driscoll last played with the Cincinnati Bengals and started 5 games for the injured Andy Dalton. I mean, Josh Johnson also played well. Well, he filled in last year with the Redskins. And according to a report from Pro Football Talk, the Seattle Seahawks cut quarterback Cardale Jones from their practice squad. ESN is reporting that Seattle is expected to re-sign an offensive lineman to take his spot. So the life of an NFL player is tough. From bouncing around from one team to the other, looking for new opportunities, it's finally time for both of those guys to look at the XFL. Now, one theory I had when it comes to these guys in the practice squad is, why sign with the XFL right now when you can get practice squad money before the XFL draft? So what happens is when you sign with the practice squad, you're guaranteed 2 weeks pay. And I think that's like $5,000 a week or something like that to be on the practice squad. So you have, maybe that's a factor in these guys not just saying, you know what, forget it, I'm going to sign with the XFL. They're like, well, maybe I can get on a practice squad, make $10,000, and then sign with the XFL in a little bit or be part of the XFL draft. I mean, I would assume maybe there'll be guys on practice squads that could potentially be in the XFL draft. We're not really sure, but then the XFL wants them to be in camp. So I wonder if this is just a play and cashing a couple paychecks before actually signing with the XFL. For the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, we saw multiple starting quarterbacks go down, including Steelers' Ben Roethlisberger. Now, he is out for the season with an elbow injury. He just threw the ball, and now his elbow was done. He didn't even get hit. And this has created an opportunity for a guy that's been on the XFL's radar. Paxton Lynch has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's just with the practice squad. Both of his new coordinators were assistant coaches when Lynch played for the University of Memphis, so maybe that had something to do with it. But Lynch, former first-round pick of the Denver Broncos with impressive draft profile, never really met his expectation when he signed a 4-year deal with a $5 million signing bonus. Bounced around the league. He was out of the league last year. Got a shot with Seattle. That was a big name that Oliver Luck had put up with Paxton Lynch and Geno Smith. Lynch looked good. He got cut from Seattle. Didn't know what was going to happen. Was hoping he would sign with the XFL. Now he is on the Steelers practice squad. Is this out of the question and we are never going to hear about Paxton Lynch again? Obviously not, because we know with Josh Johnson and Cardale Jones, they got cut and they're out as of this recording, not signed with anybody. We'll have to keep an eye on Paxton Lynch and see if he doesn't get cut in the next 2 weeks as well. Bob Stoops hit the media circuit this week. The former Oklahoma Sooner and current XFL Dallas Renegades came out with a new book entitled No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. It was co-authored by Stoops and Gene Wojciechowski. We listened to several interviews with Bob Stoops and then realized they were basically talking about the same thing. One of Stoops' sayings, and I love this saying, you can check it out on XFL News Hub, is when you make excuses, you're just trying to justify failure. Because you fail when you make excuses because you failed. So all you're just trying to do is justify failure. I think that's a great quote by Coach Stoops. Now, here are some highlights that we found listening to different shows. He said over the course of his college football career, 3 different times he was approached by NFL teams when he was with Oklahoma. He believes in the leadership of XFL, Oliver Luck, and Vince McMahon. He wanted his own space, and the XFL gives him that. Remember, he doesn't have to worry about recruiting players, meeting parents and boosters. He can pick these guys. They're getting paid. They want to be there. They want to make a name for themselves. They're hungry. He can coach them up. And it's more of a chill environment. It's in the spring. It just gave him his own space. He said Steve Spurrier's experience with the AAF was an influence in his decision to join the XFL. Spurrier was having a good time. Stoops worked with Spurrier back in the day in Florida. So seeing how Spurrier enjoyed his time in the AAF really opened Bob Stoops' eyes. So it's another reason why it was a good thing to have the AAF in place it's coming to being, and its downfall really helped the XFL in a lot of different ways, including the idea of spring football, getting a Bob Stoops in, TV deals, players signing, and so much more. He said right now Landry Jones is not on his team, whatever, and that process is still underway. He's just signed to the XFL, but he's not assigned to Dallas. He said the XFL is more focused on former NFL players who have finished their college career rather than players with college eligibility left. I think that's more of just a carrot dangling out there. I don't think they're really interested in signing any college players unless somebody really big. But usually if you get kicked out of college, now if it's just grades, that's one thing. But usually these guys who get kicked out of college is because of doing something that's not nice. So I don't think the XFL would be interested in them after that. He thought Hal Mummy's offense at Kentucky was the hardest he faced in college, and that's why he brought him to Dallas. Didn't know that for certain, but now that was a interesting take. Why Hal Mummy? Because he was so impressed. In several interviews, he talked about how impressed he was with Hal Mummy, and now to have them together, man, I'm telling you, they're going to be good. He felt that he had run his course at Oklahoma, and it was time to move on. They asked him, every single person asked him about returning to college football. He basically ends everything with, you can never say never. Quote, you just never know what the good Lord's going to bring. And that is so true, Mr. Bob Stoops. If you want to check out his book, it's on Amazon. We have links to it. Just head over to xflnewshub.com to check out his book. I hope it'll be on audiobook, because if it's on audiobook, I would definitely check it out. I don't read books. I'm an Audible guy. Maybe they should be a sponsor of the show. All right, we'll be back with your social media stuff, emails, and so much more right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we are back. Now on to the social media stuff and so much more, because we always have fun on the Twitters. I Am Prolific says, when's the draft? How people going to buy tickets and they don't even know the roster? We will definitely not know the roster. Tickets will be out first. I have a feeling the way that the timetable is working right now is that the tickets will be before even the Tier 1 players. That's just my guess. I was hoping that we would get Tier 1 players first. I think we'll get season ticket packages, and then we'll get Tier 1, and then we'll get to the draft. I'd be really stunned if we get into the draft, which we're hearing is kind of in the October 20s. We get to the XFL draft and there's not Tier 1 guys out there. But I agree with you, that would move the needle. But maybe you want to launch the tickets first, get that all squared away, and then make sure everything is working, and then get into the players, your Tier 1 players. I don't know. But that's a good point. Travis, so do you think the XFL is going to fold after those quarterbacks signed in the NFL? No, we'll be fine. Honestly, there's going to be guys out there. I mean, you look at the AAF, most of those quarterbacks we never even heard of. I'd never heard of them. So I'm not worried. It would just be nice to have some name guys on there with some tape from the NFL, some pictures from the NFL, but I don't think so. Who knows what happens. About Paxton Lynch, Richard Humphrey says, why did they sign him? He's not that good. I don't know why the Steelers signed him either. But dude, you were a first-round pick and now you're a practice squad guy? Want to make a difference? Hit the XFL. I mean, we're all like, I don't understand. Why don't they come out and be in the XFL? Why do they keep... I think it comes down to paychecks. That you're just getting paid. You get signed, you get paid. Also, I Am Prolific said, when are the uniforms coming out? I assume we would get uniforms coming out before the draft. Don't you think? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But the XFL is patient, unlike us, because we want it all now. I'm super excited to see what the uniforms are. We are working on a nice article from one of our writers when it comes to uniforms. And you'll just have to wait and check out XFL News Hub when that comes out. I'm excited to see what this article comes out. But it has to do with uniforms. Let's put it that way. As Heel, one of our super fans, he says, at XFL 2020, we'll have players that are in a 3rd, 4, 5, 6th round picks, and they're going to make the most out of them, and they're going to prove that you could be a star, could make a star from a player that didn't make an NFL team. XFL News Hub, it's all about making most out of NFL cuts and other players. This is referring to about Antonio Brown, and what about the XFL? As Heel, 100% agree. The XFL is going to be making stars, not plucking them from the NFL, because I don't think they need to, because their approach is a long-term approach. Vince has got super wads of cash. And if you can get to 3 seasons, which is what the thing is, get through 3 seasons, I think we're good. I think we're stable. I want to hear that XFL has broke even, or that the league is broke even, or the league is profitable. Then we're rolling, and that's it, and it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong for us older farts say stuff like that. Let's hit the YouTube channel. Jose says Ryan Mallett better not be in the XFL. Oh my goodness, that's a little harsh. As Heel on the hitting us up on the YouTube Superfan. Let's be honest, San Antonio for XFL would be a great opportunity. Just look back at the AAF and the San Antonio fans. That was something that proved all the viewers that San Antonio deserves a sports team that for that only city after the AAF was locked. I know that for now, this is not something the XFL could do, but after 1-2 years, San Antonio would deserve a sports team at the XFL level. The stadium that is the San Antonio would be amazing to start at the Alamo Dome. You look back at the AAF, the only team that made more sense to deserve the next sports league team is the San Antonio. With San Diego, it was but just maybe because it has nothing so amazing with the San Diego Fleet team. But yeah, maybe this would be the start that maybe would boost the attendance even more than the AAF had. I think San Diego is going to be the number one team that will bring back, that could be a potential an XFL expansion team. It's getting late, folks. It's getting late. It's tired. Long day. Long day. Stone Cold 10X. It's true what they say in Texas. Football is a religion. And then Trish says Louisville as a place, potential teams based on our podcast. We get so many views of our podcast. You got to get on YouTube, subscribe to us, like us, get the notification. So many people love to listen to the podcast on YouTube, and I would love to eventually have video. We're working our way up, slowly keeping it in budget, being patient like Oliver Luck has taught us. Before we just jump and just spend a bunch of money and everything goes to slowly building our YouTube channel up, because I definitely want to do live things. Definitely do this show. I want to do this show live eventually on YouTube, building ourselves up. Got lighting, got the camera, need to work on audio and a location to do all this stuff and so much more. It's not easy just coming out with something. All right. On to the Facebooks. Talking about Josh Johnson and Cardale Jones. Derek says, thought Cardale signed with the Seahawks practice squad. Nope. Well, he did. You're right about that. Then he got cut. Bennis, our top fan on the Facebook, says, at least that's something new. I really hope that this is going to change the view of them as they look for next team in the NFL or XFL. I would love to see both of them in the XFL. It's not like they will be signing with XFL forever. They could play at least 2 years, go back to the NFL, and with big hopes. Well, they won't go back to the NFL draft, but improve their scoreboard on the NFL scouts radar. And I agree with that. Caleb, talking about our podcast, he says, listening to the podcast this morning, I wanted to give my 2 cents on the fantasy aspect of it, where there's only 8 teams. The XFL could do a fantasy type thing like the CFL does on the TSN app, where basically a weekly fantasy. I think they're going to do that. I think they're all in to do fantasy sports. That's part of it. Gambling is part of it. I did a fantasy XFL back in 2001. Didn't really know any of the players, but I remember playing it back then. We're definitely going to be into the fantasy aspect of it. We'll definitely be giving our players of the week who to sit, who to play, some rankings, doing all of that stuff on XFL News Hub. Zach says, the one team I would cut, this is going back to our original question, but we had to change it because of old Antonio Brown, is he says the Wildcats, because of having too many high school and college teams with that name. And it just seems like the city is greedy because they already have 2 football teams, and a city that already has 2, like New York or LA, I don't think would ever be able to support 3. That's interesting. Yeah, because LA is a weird sports town. And for a while, I mean, they had the LA Raiders. They had the LA Rams. And then the Rams left. And then they came back. Remember Eric Dickerson? He was an LA Ram. And then now they have the San Diego, or now it's Los Angeles Chargers, sharing a stadium. I don't know, man. I agree with you. I don't know if LA is they're weird. the weird sports town in LA. I'm sorry, LA fan, Wildcat fan. I'm sorry. Talking about Paxton Lynch signing with the Steelers, David says, doesn't this show that a QB would rather bench sit in the NFL than risk an unproven venture like the XFL? Without quality quarterbacks, you'll not have good play, not good enough to succeed anyway. Don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there's a reason no other league has succeeded. I really think this will be different, David. I'm betting the house on this, not literally. I feel that it will work. And I don't necessarily, there was not big name quarterbacks in the AAF either. They just need to make it for a full season. And at the end of the season, Oliver Luck needs to come on TV. Be like, hey, this is a great season, and we're going to see you next year. And everybody's going to be in. I think it'll be easier to lure these players from the NFL. I agree, because as much as the AAF has helped the league in many ways, it's also hurt the league. So you do have a good point. I'm not going to go total heel on you, but yeah. On to the question of the week. We're talking about Antonio Brown. Here we go on the Facebook page. Talking about Antonio Brown. Scott says, I thought that there was a morals clause in every XFL contract. There was, and there's not. Like, we don't really know for certain what that stuff is all about with the clauses and contracts that Vince talked about earlier. A lot of people love to quote him on that and hold him to it, which is fine. You can hold him to it. But I think things have changed a little bit with Oliver Luck in charge, but who knows? On the question, let's see. Scotty says, not even the CFL? Tony says, XFL already said they had no interest. David says, oh, hell no. More on Antonio. Derek says, as of Saturday, 3 NFL teams were, plus that kind of talent don't deserve to be in a league that will fold in 3 years. Yikes. Derek, put some hate towards our XFL brand. How dare you? How dare you? We shall see, my friend. Let's see. Anthony says, I think they should sign Antonio Brown. Jonathan, I thought Vinnie Mac had said the XFL will not sign no player with that kind of criminal record. He did say that. Ryan said XFL has already said no. Joe, no AB, no cap, and no Johnny football. Everybody, nope, no. Pretty much everybody saying no to Antonio Brown. Sorry, Antonio. On to Instagram with the same question. Scanning through the tons of comments. Nope. Rex Ryan should coach in the XFL. Mark.Galatio. Okay, random. Nope. All about the Benjamins. Said, I think the XFL could benefit from the NFL by signing players that are no longer NFL quality or that go against the grain of the NFL, mainly Colin Kaepernick and now AB. And honestly, any other player that want to just be themselves and not have to conform to the NFL. I think that's exactly what the new league, like the XFL, needs to gain viewers and to jumpstart the league. I don't know about that. That's a nose, no. Demetrius Helton said, in my view, he should be signed to the XFL and to my city, St. Louis, and our new pro football team with the XFL and our St. Louis Battlehawks for 2020, as well if he and only if he behaves in a professional and mature fashion. Not sure that's going to happen, though. He says, Colin Kaepernick plus Antonio Brown plus St. Louis Battlehawks equals XFL championship. Could you imagine those two on the same team? Salesley Photo says who? And a couple, one yes and mostly no's. Mostly not a good vibe for our friend Antonio Brown. He's not feeling the love in the XFL community. On to the emails. Kevin checking in about the XFL future expansion. He says, big XFL fan for a year now in Fargo, North Dakota. And I just wanted to get my 8 cents in on this. 8 big points, 8 cents. Not 1 cent, not 2 cents, 8 cents. All right, here we go. Number 1, XFL's broadcast partners with Fox and ESPN/ABC, I believe, is a 3-year contract. And if I remember correctly, we should see if the XFL is even ready for expansion by that time. Right now, they're not. We need to look at this objectively and trust what Vince and Luck and company are doing. Absolutely, 100% on that point. It's a 3-year contract, and I agree. Unless it's super popular and the broadcast partners and advertisers are like, you need to add 2 more teams because we could really make some money somehow. But all of them are booked. So what would be the help of these? You don't want to have 2 games competing with each other at the same time, unless they were able to work out a Thursday night type deal or a Sunday night type thing. Then maybe I could see them adding it. 2, leave Tampa alone. 1 team in Florida is enough, but none is too little. And Tampa was the best location for Florida, I think. If they ever moved, then just move to Orlando, which is more centered. No other XFL teams are needed in Florida's future, though. I agree with you on that, yes. I know I was being mean to Tampa, but I mean, I just think of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays a baseball team, like one of the best teams out there, and they were like barely fill that building. But Major League Baseball is terrible. They don't fill up anything. They're going to go bankrupt. You want to talk about who is going to go out of business first? Major League Baseball or the XFL? I would put all my money on Major League Baseball. There is no way you can pay a person $200 million when your franchise by itself is worth $500 million. The economics make no sense. And the way Major League Baseball has been able to make so much money is with these local contracts and local cable. We know cable is hemorrhaging subscribers. It's not going to work anymore. The economics of baseball does not work anymore. If I was a betting man, I would say Major League Baseball would be out of business before the XFL. And if I'm wrong, you can cut this up and play it to me 1,000 times when the XFL is out of business. He has 2 2s, by the way, of the 8. So there actually might be 9. 2 again. I know football in Texas is huge, but 3 teams in Texas, San Antonio is too saturated, maybe in that far, far, far future. That's a problem with San Antonio, and I agree with you. That's 3 Texas teams and nowhere else. San Antonio fans can latch on to one of the other teams. And I understand it drew well, but it's not Houston and it's not Dallas. 3, there are certain cities, the XFL, they didn't go for various reasons, it seems. One reason, it seems, is they declined. I believe Oakland and Chicago were 2 of them. I have a feeling their attitudes will change in 2 to 3 years if the XFL proves successful. Agree with you there. Another reason some cities didn't get a team was because they didn't have a good stadium. I remember Luck talking about stadiums when the cities were announced, say that their stadium was one of the reasons those cities were picked. So the right stadiums are very important. Oakland is one of them with a bad stadium. True. There's other and better options in the San Francisco Bay Area right now, including San Jose MLS Stadium and college stadiums. Oakland needs to fix their stadium situation. That's why the Raiders left. The A's might leave even if MLB gets on their behind. San Diego is similar. The Chargers left because old Jack Murphy stinks. I don't think they got a team because they already had AAF, which failed. Now the AAF is gone. They need to fix their stadium issues as well as Qualcomm. Old Jack Murphy Stadium is way outdated. XFL needs to go to locations with great stadium options, which could easily be an MLS stadium. Yeah, DC, just pointing that out. If San Diego gets a new stadium, then they should be considered most definitely. Birmingham is a smaller market, but maybe they could do it. I'm not sure. They are at least in the process of building a new stadium to replace the use of their old yet historic Legion Field, protected stadium. I think that's what it'll be called. Maybe Alabama and Auburn will play there again in Birmingham. Roll Tide. Yes, I'm a lifelong Bama fan way up here in North Dakota, along with other family. LOL. Okay, fine. That's fine. You all can travel. 5, in the future after league success, I think the best teams to add most geographically expand the XFL. Cities that will do that are cities in the Midwest and Rockies. Eventually another team in California. And the South would be good, but spread it out to XFL first Nashville would be a good geographical fit in the South, but don't play at crappy Vandy Stadium. But Birmingham wouldn't be bad either. There's a growing desire from what I've seen and heard being in between the Midwest and the Rockies. Top cities in the Midwest to consider should be Minneapolis. Multiple stadiums to choose from, including the U of M and MLS. Chicago, the MLS Stadium, not Soldier Field. Detroit, Cleveland, and Columbus, MLS. Detroit and Cleveland have crappy NFL teams, so their fans might look forward to an XFL team and season following the NFL. Teams in the Rockies should be Las Vegas at the new Raiders Stadium, true, Tempe, newly renovated Sun Devil Stadium, and Denver, using their MLS. They're big enough markets to draw big crowds. They have a great stadiums to choose from, MLS and otherwise. The cities I mentioned will expand the XFL's fan base. Geographically, there's a large part of the country that's not represented by the XFL, forcing fans like me to choose teams nowhere close to us. For this reason, I decided to follow the St. Louis Battlehawks. Even though it's 1,000 miles away, yet it's still the closest in my region. That's a problem. The Rockies and Midwest need to be represented more in the future when the XFL is providing it can expand when it's ready. But they will consider the right stadiums as well as beside the right markets when choosing the city, just as they did the inaugural 8 cities. Now, listen, let me tell you something, Kevin, my friend. You should have just picked America's team, DC Defenders. I know we're farther away, and I get that, but you're not going to go to a game that's 1,000 miles away. So you just pick America's team, DC Defenders. Keep it simple, folks. You don't have a team, it's the DC Defenders. Number 6, Atlanta, I believe, can be a great sports town. What? We disagree on there, but not necessarily for their own teams. Good example of this are the ACC Championship game and the Peach Bowl. Bad examples are their own teams, including both pro and college sports in all sports. That being said, maybe Atlanta can be left off the list until they prove otherwise. Nashville or Birmingham would be better choices in the South. Charlotte is a possibility, but maybe too far east. And Memphis is too close to St. Louis, saturating that market. Stay away from Atlanta. I would take any city. Atlanta would be the last city on my list. The last. As a USAF veteran, I would really love the XFL to consider a partnership with the military academies, being able to recruit players for future drafts who are finished doing their tour of duty, and at the same time promoting the military, which is always good with football fans. Excellent point. Those players would be great assets as players in the XFL if drafted for several reasons once their tour of duty is complete, and maybe even have a promotion program in the XFL with the military academies. Great PR in my book, exclamation point. Agree with you there. Number 8, love your Android app. Agree with the others that you need an editor, though, on your articles. Too many typos too often. Oh, my goodness. Have a great XFL day. Kevin, checking in. Again, another person. I try to read it. I need to change my approach. I am a person of growth mindset. And I agree, and I've gone back and I'm like, oops. There's a couple typos or words are spelled wrong. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get them out fast, but I'm working on it. And we've got some great writers that are much better than me. Let's be honest. And they're putting out good stuff. So I'm excited. But thank you, Kevin, for checking in. Super long email. We love it. Let's see. Nicholas checking in. The tier 1 emailer. Maybe Kevin will take his spot. He says, if I was the XFL, if possible, I would jump on these quarterback signings and release them as soon as possible. You have Cardale Jones, Mike White, Davis Webb, Terrell Pryor, Sam Bradford. Those are 2 guys he keeps bringing up. Tari Jackson, Jordan Tamau, Connor Cook, and many others. I'm also very intrigued to see when and how the jerseys will look. It's getting close to 2020. And the XFL needs to keep releasing information to keep it on the minds of fans so they know when the season is over and the fans will be excited to tune in. I think, Nicholas, that we really need those uniforms because Christmas season is upon us coming. And that would make wonderful Christmas gifts for you and the whole family. All right. Thanks for listening, folks. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, you can email podcast@xflnewshub.com or call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, XFL News Hub, the number 1. Plus, the Android app on Google Play, the iPhone app on iTunes. Remember, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it on the show, and you'll be entered to win an XFL sweatshirt. Winner will be announced the show after the XFL Draft. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. And for show notes, go to xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. And then you can get all your show notes, all the articles we talked about, all the links that we talk about. Everything is all in the show notes, friends. Thanks for listening. We have a special guest next week. We'll be on the show. Excited for you to bring you that. That will be for next week's show. So thanks for listening. Mahalo. God bless to all you all out there. Pray for Antonio Brown to get his act together. That's it. God bless. And I will see you all later.